One of the things that we did very differently in the training of the sexes is we told women, get your security by marrying men and take care of your intimacy needs, oftentimes by connections with your children and by connections with women friends and connections with your parents. So women got a lot of their intimacy needs met by people other than men. Men could not get their intimacy needs met by their colleagues at work, because the more successful they were at work, the shorter the window of listening to a man who is a colleague's vulnerabilities at work. If you and I are competing to be vice president of a company, and I come in and I say to you, you know, Tony, I've having a lot of problems with my relationships with my wife, well, you might listen to me for 5 minutes. But at the end of 5 minutes, if I do this a second and third day in a row, the door is going to be closed to me. Whereas a woman goes to her woman friends and she says, I'm having problems with Tony, or I'm having problems with Warren, and that woman friend's incentive will be to support her, and they'll feel bonded by that common dilemma that they're both having, and they'll talk to each other more often, not less often. So women and men both have enormous intimacy needs, but here is the trick. Women learn to take care of their intimacy needs in a lot of different places. Children, women friends, parents, and men. Men put all their eggs of intimacy in the basket of women, which is why when men feel that they've found a woman that they can really open up to and love, they'll marry anywhere on the socioeconomic spectrum to get that love. Women's deprivation is different. Their deprivation is economic security, which is why even if they meet a loving, tender, open, caring man, they don't feel so deprived of intimacy. They feel deprived of the possibility that once they have children, they won't be able to take care of the children and themselves and have intimacy with the children if they also have to take care of economic security needs.
Like getting a job.
Like getting a job full-time, and particularly a job that will be big enough if it's a job to support themselves, the children. And so they end up falling in love within the framework of men who are more successful. And then they say, gee, what I miss from these men is intimacy.
So they fall in love. What you're saying is they're attracted to a man who can provide the security for their family or their future family. And yet, in order for him to be successful, he's not there, and then their intimacy is not being made.
Yes. So when a man and a woman meet each other today, in 1990-something, what they find is they have two different sets of expectations, even in the 90s. The successful woman meets a successful man, and she says to herself, I'm thinking about children in the future, and when I think about children in marriage, I have three basic options. Option one is I'll take care of those children full-time. Option two is I'll be a full-time career woman while we have somebody support the children and be there for the children. Option three is I'll do some combination of both. I'll maybe take off from work for 6 months or longer, full-time, take care of the children full-time, go back part-time, then go back full-time, and then maybe for a second child repeat the cycle. She says, I have three options: work full-time, children full-time, juggle the combination of both. He looks at the world and a successful wife and says, if we have children, I have three different options. Option one, work full-time. Option two, work full-time. And option three, maybe work 2 jobs. Or intensify his commitment to the work that he's doing to provide for the difference between the income she used to make and the income she makes now. So she says, I want commitment. He's afraid of commitment because he's afraid of intimacy. But he, unable to articulate what he's afraid of, is really not afraid of commitment because he's afraid of intimacy. He's afraid of commitment because he knows that if there's children down the line, that committing will mean not an increased commitment to the children and to intimacy, but an increased commitment to the economics of the relationship so that she can have intimacy with the children. He learns that commitment means commitment to economics, not commitment to intimacy. He learns that commitment means commitment to be away from intimacy.
Because he's going to have to work harder.
Because he's going to have to work harder to provide for the children, the children's college education, and for her ability to have time with the children. And so that is still true in the 1990s. Men and women, when they have children, women are still 43 times more likely to take off from the workplace to be with the children for 6 months or longer when the children are very young.
So you see this as a major source of stress in virtually any man-woman relationship that's going to mature. Is that
It's
true?
a major source of stress in in every perception of needs and wants that males and females have. As long as both sexes are very clear at the outset that both sexes want to be career people and have no children, oftentimes this problem doesn't come up. But as long as a man believes that marriage might lead to children, and the unstated hidden agenda is that the woman will have those three options and he will have the one option, the moment that is in the cards, in the future, the man starts thinking that my career is more important than hers. Why? Because they are planning on a career in which his career will be more important than hers. And so he's planning for a reality base that's accurate. It's not his paranoia.
What about the challenges that come up between men and women where women say, well, how come men are so preoccupied with sex? This man is so, he's attracted to other women or he's attracted to younger women. Why isn't he attracted to me? Where does that come up, and what has your research found about that? Is it really true? Is it a generalization that women have? Is it a generalization men have? Where does the conditioning come in?
The reason that many women feel that men are attracted to beautiful women who are younger is not because women are crazy, but because it's true. And one of the reasons it's true is because for millions of years it was functional for societies to train men to be in love with a beautiful young woman. Because when he fell in love with the beautiful young woman, and the more he would do for the beautiful young woman would be the more he would provide for her, the better he would provide for the children and for her. The more he'd be willing to die for her and protect her and the children. Women selected for men who were addicted enough to their youth and beauty to be willing to die for that youth and beauty. Hence, we learned stories throughout mythology that thousands of men would compete to kill the dragon. All the men would die except for one. The one man who lived would get the beautiful princess. The basic metaphor there was find some way of killing off the things that will hurt society, that will damage the potential for the community and for me, the woman, to die. The one man that survives, I will choose him. And we got men addicted to that beautiful woman in order to have the incentive to do that. Now that addiction to the beautiful woman is with us, we are all reinforcing it every day. Go to any school system, and we will find dozens of beautiful cheerleaders cheering for men to play smash face with each other.
Why are they willing to do that?
They're willing to do that because they learn that if they smash each other's faces and carry this piece of pigskin across, 100 yards and do it more successfully than the other men do, they'll have the love not only of the beautiful woman, but they'll have the respect of their father. And that's only a metaphor for the doctor and the lawyer. And then when they become the doctor and lawyer, what are they going to hear the mother say? My son, the doctor, with pride. They're not going to hear their mother say, my son, the intimate one, with pride.
I understand. Now, what are some of the lessons that kids are learning? Let's go back to that. Let's say in junior high about the differences between themselves, between a young boy and a young girl.
Yeah, here's how powerful the lesson is, and here's how unchanged that lesson is for the woman or man who's listening who's an adult and for your kids. I'll ask you to think about this as an adult, and I'll also ask you to hear that as you're thinking about this, that the same thing is true for the junior high school male and female today. If you're a woman, think of the man that you would have most loved to have asked you out to the prom, who was so out of reach for you that you could never even get his attention, much less get him to ask you out to the prom. Now, you may have been able to get the attention of every guy in your school. If you could, go to a school beyond. Go to some, maybe you couldn't get Robert Redford's attention. Go to some guy who you couldn't get to ask you to the prom. Now, think of who that guy was for a moment. And I'll come back to you in a second. Guys, think of the woman that you would have loved to have asked out to the prom, but you feared that if you asked her out, she either would have said no or she would have said yes and grimaced. If you're thinking of the right woman, to this day you should know her name. And women, if you're thinking of the right man, to this day you should know his name. And if you're thinking of the right woman or man, to this day they probably don't even know your name. Okay? So now let's go back to the woman and the man. Women, think about whether the man that you were thinking of was good looking. The chances are about 95% that he was good looking. Think about whether he was some sort of performer or another. Was he a jock? Was he a leader of the student rebels? Was he successful on campus? Was he older and sort of, you knew he had potential? Did he have no direct success, but you knew this guy in a few years had career potential? The chances are he fit at least one of those categories.
Or he was a leader in some
He was
way. Maybe an
yes,
anti-hero.
yes, an anti-hero, leader of the rebels. He had the biggest car. He was driving around, like he in some way performed, stood out, had the indicator of being some type of master of his environment performer. Okay? Men, think of the woman you were most wanted to ask to the prom. The chances are fairly good that she was beautiful, very attractive. But when I ask you the question, think about whether she was a jock, best football player. The chances are, you'll laugh. If I ask you whether she was a student body president, the chances are about 10% that you'll say yes. If I ask you whether you knew that she had career potential, the chances are you'll draw a blank, and you'll say, I just don't know either way whether she had career potential or not. Now, the invisible curriculum that we got and that our kids are still getting is this. The woman learns that if she's beautiful, that she can be a man's first choice. The man learns that if he's only handsome or beautiful, that's a prerequisite to being her first choice, but it isn't enough for being her first choice. Even in the 1990s, the young boy learns that for him to be good looking as she, is not enough to be the woman's first choice. In addition to being good looking, he has to compensate for his powerlessness by being both good looking and also some form of future potential performer or success. He also learns something very different. That if he's going to ask her to the prom, he better damn well not go up to her and say, I'd like to ask you to the prom, Dutch treat. Or she's maybe going to feel hurt and insulted. That he'll be in a better position to ask her to the prom and pay for it and say that he'll pick her up in a limousine. That the more he has to offer, the more his chance of success in asking her to the prom is. So he still learns that he'll have a better chance of asking out the most attractive women in school if he learns to pay for their attention and company. He learns he's not as powerful as the most attractive woman, his first choice, until he compensates for his powerlessness by also offering money in addition to performing. He also learns that he'd like to be sexual with her, if he's asking her to the prom probably, and that he's not going to get to be sexual with her until he risks the rejection to compensate for his powerlessness. From his perspective, he would feel far more powerful if she asked him, and if she risked rejection by kissing him first. And so he would feel far more powerful if she risked the rejection and she asked him out.
But that's not going to happen.
He knows it's not going to happen, so he knows that he has to compensate for his experience. His view of the world is that he's not as powerful as the woman who's his first choice, even if he's just as good looking as that first choice woman, until he compensates for his powerlessness by performing, by paying, and by pursuing. He has to ask her, take initiatives, risk the rejection, and with AIDS, he has to risk the rejection for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I guess so.
And so, it's only created for him one more performance barrier to overcome. Now, this creates a lot of the misunderstandings between the sexes. Women say to me, Warren, pursuing, let's just take that for a moment. Why can't a man just let a friendship develop? And if sex happens, it happens. Well, I find that when I do the role reversal workshops that I do with you in Hawaii, Tony, that one of the things that happens is that when women really get into taking the sexual initiatives with men, and they know that nothing will happen unless they take the initiatives, like men often know, that they are saying to me, I just wanted the sex to happen sooner, because she intuitively knew that the longer the period of friendship, the longer the period of potential rejection.
So in other words, what you're saying is that a man is trying to initiate the sex to know that he's being accepted or being loved, that he can be intimate. And the longer he waits, the longer he's putting off what may be inevitable pain. That is, that he's not accepted at the deepest level.
Yes, and what the man learns is that there's about 150 risks of potential rejection between eye contact and sexual intercourse. That creates a lot of anxiety. So he starts compensating to avoid that anxiety. He starts telling stories about himself that makes himself look good, so the woman will think she has a real catch. And the woman sees right through it and says, give me a break. And in the meantime, what's building up between the two of them is alienation, misunderstanding. But what comes out of the role reversal process is an understanding that whatever sex we ask to take the sexual initiatives is the sex that wants that process of misunderstanding and anxiety to end the fastest, because they're the ones risking the bulk of the rejection. And so one of the reasons I do workshops in which I ask women to play men's roles and men to play women's roles is that I find that if I explain this to a woman or a man, they can understand that intellectually, and it reframes what they understand about the other sex. But it's not until the woman emotionally goes through asking a first-choice man out and trying to get him to be sexual with her and him resisting, like I was just talking about, that she finally understands, my goodness, I'm wanting to make this period of time as short as possible. Now I understand why men are so minimally interested in a period of friendship preceding sex.
Interesting. So we've talked a lot about what some of the problems are. What are some of the solutions? We said the problems are there's a tremendous difference in what men have been conditioned to do to receive love and what women have been conditioned to do to receive love. Our society is changing radically. What's the solution to making these relationships work more rapidly and more effectively and at a deeper level?
One of the solutions is things like working out trade-offs, working out the types of compromises, and maybe saying, here's my value for intimacy, here's my value for time with you, here's my value for success, and to the degree that they're blocking each other, maybe I need to give up a little bit more of one to get more time with the other. But the biggest solution, by, I'd say, a factor of 5, is merely understanding what the other sex goes through. I have almost never had a couple come up to me and say, Warren, we'd like a divorce. My partner understands me.
So what does a man want a woman to understand? Give me the synopsis of it.
First of all, let me just say, for men, the understanding is particularly important because men have all their eggs of intimacy and understanding wrapped up in the basket of the woman. And so the man, more than anything else, wants understood that if you want me to play this role, I'll play this role, but please understand me. I'm doing this not because I have more power, not because I want it over you, not because I want to dominate, because I think this is the way I can get your love and to serve you. And if you're telling me that this is what you require, just at least when I come home late at night, don't say to me, why are you coming home late? Say to me, thank you for staying later, to work late, to provide more for me and the family. And if I hear that from you, I'm going to feel like coming home sooner. And the portions of me that stay at work later because I feel I'm going to get misunderstanding when I come home is going to be dumped. And I'm going to be coming home as soon as possible to get the understanding that I'm feeling from you when I come home.
Also, if you're getting reinforcement at home saying you're going to have more love being there, then you're not going to be looking for that love through your work or the respect of your peers quite as much.
Precisely. Here's another major difference between men and women that creates a lot of misunderstandings. Many women say, okay, I'm out working and you're out working, and therefore I want you to share half the housework and half the child care. The man says, that sounds fair, but there's something in me that doesn't feel understood by that comment. What is it? And when he searches, he finds that what it is that he may be producing more income because all his life he's sacrificed the type of career he wanted. He didn't stay as an elementary school teacher. He became an elementary school principal because he knew that he wasn't going to be earning enough income as an elementary school teacher. He sees becoming an administrator as a sacrifice. He wants it appreciated as a sacrifice. If as a result of that he's producing 70% of the income, he wants a wife that says, okay, I know you're producing 70% of the income. I'll do 70% of the work around the house. You do the 30%. And if we want to renegotiate, and I'll produce half the income, not by option, but by obligation, and I'll stick to it for a number of years. If you do half the child care and the housework for a number of years, that's fine.
But he doesn't want that anyway. What he wants is her to say, I love you, and I'm intimate with you, and I worship you because you're the principal, in essence. Isn't that true, though?
No. He wants to know that he's doing everything he can to do what he feels will make him most loved by her. He wants to know that he's working as hard as he can to do the best he can to provide for himself, for her, for the kids, and to have as much time with the kids as possible. Every man wants time with his kids. Every man wants time with his wife, if he's at all still in love with her. And when he hears from his wife that you are not coming home because you don't want time with me, it only drives him further from home because he knows that he wants that love from her.
And also, he's working to get it, and now he's not getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like a double negative.
Yes.
What does a woman want?
As we said before, she first wants those survival needs taken care of. But once the survival needs are taken care of, she usually, if we ask her what she wants, she says, I want intimacy, I want communication, I want understanding, I want a sense of humor, I want a sense of fun, I want a sense of adventure. She wants all those things. Oftentimes, she finds those things most missing from the men in her life because, as I was mentioning before, she marries within the framework of the more successful men, and then those men, in the process of becoming the successful men that she married, oftentimes are most missing those qualities and most off doing other things other than intimacy-based things.
So it's a catch-22.
Both sexes have their catch-22. Women's catch-22 is marrying within the framework of the more successful men and then missing the very intimacy that she wants.
Because he's not there.
Because he's not there.
Or he's burnt out by the time he gets to her.
Men's catch-22 is feeling that they have to be successful in order to get love, and then continuing to be successful in order to get love, but being so far away from both love physically because he's working too many hours, and also developing personality characteristics that are inversely related to love. What both sexes need more than any other thing is to understand that the other one just needs appreciation and understanding for the burden on their back. The difference in the last 20 years is that we've done a very good job of articulating women's burden. Men have done a terrible job at articulating their burden, and men cannot expect women to hear what men do not say. And men have to have the courage and the guts to articulate what they feel and think, and have the respect enough for women to articulate that, and know that maybe some women will withdraw from them, but it takes guts to say what men really think, and risk the possibility that some women will withdraw from them, but other women will understand. And the women who understand are the ones they need to select for, and they need to provide enough of their own intimacy needs so that they don't feel that they're a house of cards the moment a woman says, I'm not going to understand you.
So we live in a society, though, still where this conditioning is continuing, and there's not a lot out there teaching people about how to make the relationship really work.
Yes,
what do you see as the solution as a society?
We're opening up more options for women, but we're not opening up, as of this point, more options for men. So we're saying things to women like, yes, you can have a combat role or join the armed forces. We're not saying to women and men, equality means sharing the obligation to do a combat role. We're saying to women, you can have the option of aborting a child or putting a child up for adoption or having the child yourself. We're not saying to men, you have an equal say in the decision-making process of whether that child becomes aborted, gets put up for adoption, or is born. And so we're saying, men, we want you to take the responsibility, put out the money, but not have the rights. And so what we are dealing with in the next 20 or 30 years until the early 2000s is dealing with a new concept of equality, where both sexes articulate what they want as rights, and understand that for every new right comes a new responsibility. You can't have the right to be involved with children on an intimacy level if you don't take on the responsibility of discipline, of nurturing. But you can't expect a man to take on that responsibility unless he has the right to have some say and some leverage vis-a-vis the woman in his life.
And the time to do that.
And the time to do that, exactly. And so what we'll be seeing in the next 40 or 50 years is, first, men saying, what are the feelings that I haven't been in touch with? Second, gathering the guts to express those feelings. Third, when they express those feelings, risking the possible rejection they'll get when they express them. Fourth, we'll be seeing some political things happening where men will be saying, I want equality to not have to do all the hazardous jobs in order to earn a living. I want you to share those hazardous jobs with me. I want you to earn by obligation as much as I do, so I have the opportunity to be as much involved with the children as you do, not earn by option as much as I do. And so we'll have a negotiation between men and women. The long-term result of that negotiation will be men and women first understanding each other, and secondly, loving each other a lot more, because men will be around more to love, they'll be more involved with the kids to love, they'll be more involved with women. We'll also have women that will be truly their own person, not women who define earning enough to support themselves as equality, but who know that equality is sharing with her husband the responsibility for supporting the children 20, 30 years down the line. That's what equality is financially. And what equality is for him is to be sharing the housework and child care, not just helping with the housework and child care after she takes all the responsibility for figuring out what needs to be done when and assigns it out to him.
So it sounds like your vision is that throwing from one end of the pendulum to the other and then finally coming in the middle where we understand each other and where we work very hard to find a way practically to support each other's needs.
Yes, and I will be supporting men to the degree of articulating their feelings and their needs and having the guts to articulate that to women. I will not be supporting men in blaming women and creating a reverse, instead of male bashing, female bashing. Yes. And I think that what we need to do is the next level needs to be for men to recognize that women have responded to men with anger out of a misinterpretation of what men were trying to do, and that it is not necessary to respond to women with anger out of a second misinterpretation. We need to move to a level now where we take responsibility for articulating our feelings. We need to give rewards of our love to the women who can hear it.
So it sounds like is what your goal in your life really is to change people's perception of what men really need and also what women really need, and to help people have a clear understanding of the reality rather than distorted conditioning that we've had in society.
Change their perceptions of what they need, and also change the whole concept of what power is. The perception of what power is, that power is not accumulating a series of economic rewards. Power is having control over your own life. And the man who is earning money for somebody else does not have control over his life. The man who is striking a balance between intimacy and earnings and has his wife striking the same type of balance is much more likely to have control over his own life. And that, to me, is power.
Fabulous. Well, I think we'll end with that, Warren. That's what this is all about, Power Talk, and I think you've offered, again, a great deal of insight as to what makes men and women do what they do. I would encourage those listening to pick up the book, because we've attempted here in a little 50, 60-minute cassette to condense 20 years of research and articulate in a short period of time. But I think the way you lay it out in your book allows people to take it in. Plus, you show the cultural conditioning, where it comes from, the advertising step by step, and I think it provides a great deal of input as to how we can better raise our kids so they have greater choices than those of us who have been conditioned for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So again, thank you for your time. I look forward to your next book, The 10 Myths About Men.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure doing this with you.
Thanks a lot.